Everybody. Sorry for the audio quality on my last live. I thought my microphone was working and I was just testing it out, trying to use it again, and I don't think it's working right. So I don't know. It might be one of those things where I have to return it. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see what happens here. But otherwise, today, just gonna do it the old-fashioned way, okay? And hopefully you guys can hear me and there won't be barking dogs and la 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 la. Anyway, welcome to June. Did you know it's June already? Also, the 100th birthday of Marilyn Monroe. I believe it was either today or yesterday. I think it's today. So, the quote on here, though, from Bernard Baruch, American financier from 1870 to 1965. Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. I think a lot of us have heard that phrase before over the years. So, you know, if you thought there wasn't haters back then, there was. And just take a piece of advice from Bernard and don't mind those who don't matter. You know what I mean? Because a lot of them, they got their own problems, right? Right? Especially all the busybodies out there. For some reason, ain't got enough to do. You know what I mean? It always amazes me, that kind of stuff. And it's like, but yet, you know, there's always tons of availability for, you know, volunteers and things of that nature, you know, but I don't know. You know, to each their own, I guess. Let's get started here. Here's that other little owl I was talking about the other day that was looking at me. That came up in the reading, so maybe we'll use this deck today as well. And might as well use this one. I don't use this one very often, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with some tarot and we'll go from there, okay? So if you didn't know, yesterday was a full moon, a blue moon, which means it was the second full moon in a single month, okay? So hopefully you released everything you were supposed to release. Yes, it was quite nice, and it was clear where I was. Also, right now you can see Venus very clearly and Jupiter out there. So if you didn't get a chance to check those out last night, please do. Please do. Okay? I know. I heard boring, boring, boring. Somebody thinks something is boring. The Fool card. Maybe it's a fool who thinks something is boring. Right? Maybe they're not bored enough. Sometimes I wonder about that. It's like, especially people that have nothing better to do than to like call the cops on people and do dumb stuff. You know what I mean? Ooh, look at that. The Emperor card. Yeah, Emperor's got things to do. And it doesn't involve calling the law over bullshit and making false reports on people. So, ooh, Strength card, Leo energy, nice. Leo will be coming up here soon, right? Tower card for somebody. Boom. Then in the outcome we have the Two of Wands here, and on the bottom of the deck, the Three of Wands. So some of you could be considering some travel right? As long as you can afford the gas, right? I feel like that's what somebody's experiencing now. It's like, yeah, it sounded great to have this big vehicle, and now we got to fill it up with gas. Right now, it's like you want to jump out of the tower because it's costing you an arm and a leg, literally, right? Okay. Hear that in the background? That's my robot vacuum I have going on. So, if you are in the chat today, please do like the video. As a reminder, it is a privilege to have a chat, so please do be kind to others in the chat and like the video. Remember, you do not have to be a subscriber in order to like the video. So if you're just popping on to other people's lives, at least do the courtesy of liking the video if you're not going to subscribe. You know what I mean? So, let's see what these ones have to say here to go along with this. The Fool's also Mercury. I don't know if there's a Mercury retrograde happening. Or the Magician is, I'm sorry. Mercury. So, you know, again, the other day, as I mentioned, you know, a Sagittarius, you know, that full moon and me in Sagittarius, that's more of a cut the crap. You know what I mean? Like, oh, yes, I can, you know, come up with 10 words, or I can say it with one. Situational awareness. You know what I mean? Self-love. Number 676. Prioritize your well-being and cultivate a deep sense of love and compassion for yourself. So that might be the new beginning here. Maybe you're starting a self-love journey, okay? Versus, do they love me? What's gonna happen? Do they love me? Well, let me be the first to break it to you. If they ain't around, they're loving on themselves somewhere else. You know what I mean? So, self-care, 789. Practice self-care. Ensure you're getting enough rest and engaging in activities that bring joy into your life. Yeah. Introduce a little bit of magic into your life. Bring that joy. You know, waking up refreshed. Ah, what a feeling. Okay. Is it magic, or, you know what I mean? Is it strange magic? Ba, ba, ba. Progress. You are making progress and advancement towards your goal. Stay focused and committed to knowing your journey and that success is within reach. All right, with the Emperor card, 678. So, going in succession here. All right? And maybe you're somebody who took over. You know, with that Emperor card again, you know, Aries energy as well. Enthusiasm. Oh my gosh, if Leo doesn't have one thing, it's enthusiasm. My Lord. 343. Approach life with an optimistic attitude, even in the face of challenges. Be excited about the opportunities that lie ahead and to embrace them with open arms. Okay? You'd be like, oh my God, I can't embrace this lion with open arms. Well, they're doing it, right? I'm not suggesting that you go and climb into the zoo pit, you know, looking for a payout from the zoo. You know what I mean? Let's think about this one. Let's think about this. Right. So, what was that show? Curb Your Enthusiasm. You know, not putting a damper on your enthusiasm, but being practical about it. Okay. And some people, that's not enough for them. If that's not enough for them, then let them go on their own journey, find their own fun, find their own way to be enthused, and maybe they will be throwing themselves in the pit at the zoo. I don't know. You know, some people need that level of excitement in their lives. Collective, we're like, yeah, probably not. Probably not. You know what I mean? Which I just saw something online the other day. It was like the anniversary of Harambe. So maybe that's why that's coming up. Simplification 654. Simplify your life and focus on what truly matters. Declutter your mind and surroundings for greater clarity and effectiveness. Okay. So if you haven't done spring cleaning yet, it might be time. So simplifying. Yeah, sometimes things get way too complicated, right? And then it's like, just throw the whole thing out. Start over. Sometimes that's what the tower feels like. It's like an emptying and rebuild it. You just got to rebuild it. Doesn't mean you can't use some of the same bricks. Doesn't mean you can't, you know what I mean? But if it's adding chaos to your life versus simplifying your life, that might be something to think about. Okay? I don't know why. This is reminding me. You know those old paintings of like the French kings and whatnot. Her hair is reminding me of that. So for somebody, you could be somebody who wears wigs. That could be something that's simplifying for you. You're just like, whatever. I'm just gonna throw this wig on today. You know, they would say like, oh, don't put a hat on. Well, maybe you just need to throw a wig on. I don't know. But that's what I'm kind of getting here. And especially like, because, you know, if you do too much to your hair, it'll damage it. Right? Which I just got mine lightened again a little bit, you know, summer highlights. And, you know, that thins your hair. So, you know, the other day I was feeling it and it was like, ooh, it feels a little different than normal. It doesn't feel as thick, but that's because what I did to it, right? But you do too much of that and then you're going to have chaos. Okay? So maybe for you, instead of going in and being like, yeah, I want to be platinum blonde, just go buy a wig. Go buy a wig. It'll cost you less money than going to the salon and perhaps even save your hair from falling out. Trust me, I have been there before. And some people will be like, oh, well, you're not really a blonde. Well, you know what? I've had many people highlight my hair and it never fell out like it did with that one time. You know what I mean? So, again, stay away from the people that add chaos. Run towards the simplification. Okay? And again, for some other people, that's not enough excitement for them. Good for them. They can go find their excitement. Go for it. Go for the drama, right? We're all, you know, we'll be like Tyra Banks here, rooting for you on that. So think about that before you get into that kind of drama. Renewal. 8, 9, and 0. You are experiencing renewal and fresh beginnings. Release the past and embrace the opportunities for growth and transformation ahead. Okay, so again, that full moon, if you didn't get that release out there, now's the time, right? If you're still thinking about it, go ahead and release it. You know, it's kind of like when, you know, you have clothes in such and such closet, and then you go in there and you're like, oh, I forgot I had this. Oh, I haven't worn this in ages. Oh, okay. Well, simplifying, releasing, maybe if you donated that item, would you have even missed it? You know what I mean? Sometimes we have these memories, right, attached to, you know, inanimate objects. And I'm not saying, you know, join the Hare Krishnas or anything, but what I'm saying is, you know, that simplification process can be part of the renewal. You know, so if you've been thinking about that kind of stuff, this might be the time. You know, it's like you can see it. Now's the time to start acting upon it. Okay. All right. And transition here, 345. You are in a period of transition and change Embrace new beginnings and trust in the process of transformation unfolding in your life. Okay. So for some of you, that could be an actual physical move as well, versus just like a vacation or a visit or something. Or maybe it's one of those things where you visit some family, or maybe you're going on your anniversary trip or something, and then you get back and you're like, okay. I see how people do it over here. Maybe I can bring some of that into my life, or not. You could be like, oh, I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that. Right? I was talking to kind of a stranger essentially the other day, and they were talking about spending time in Colorado, and it's like, yeah, and they have all those wildfires. I mean, it's pretty with the mountains, but they have all those wildfires and stuff, and it's like, man, I am so glad I don't live in an area where I have to worry about that all the time. You know what I mean? So sometimes that travel makes us appreciate the home more, right? Where it's like, you can walk those steps and then carry with you the knowledge. Okay? All right. Oh, here it is. I know I pulled this little deck out somewhere. So let's go ahead and pull some of these cards here and see what else comes out. Okay. And sometimes when people see the Tower card, like, they think it's a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Okay. This could even be, and I hate to say it, other people that have built up walls, right? And you're like just sitting here thinking, well, I hope it works out for them, but, right? And now it's like the walls are starting to fall down. You're like, yeah, well, I wasn't on that building project, right? And sometimes it'll be like that, look at those building collapses that have occurred, in the United States. We're supposed to have ocean regulations and all these things. There's probably people that were like crying saying, oh, I didn't get that bid on that job, blah, blah. Well, then look at what happened. Do you want to be part of the crew that was on that build? You know what I mean? Sometimes when we don't get things, right? When we don't get things, it is that blessing in disguise. It is that moment that says, well, that wasn't meant for you. That was meant for somebody else for whatever reason. And you can stay out of the way, right? And keep going about your business. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that's because you took a simpler route. Oh, we're going to take this shortcut. It'll be fine. Oh, it says not to go off the path here, but I'm sure it'll be okay. It's like some people will read about a cautionary tale. Some people want to become the cautionary tale. Is that you, collective, or are you looking to simplify? Keep it simple, keep it safe. Okay? Kind of like people that have, it's like they got a new boyfriend, girlfriend every 2-3 weeks, every other month, and it's like, I don't know how you keep track, dude, lady. I don't know. To me, that's way too complicated. Again, maybe these people don't have hobbies. I don't know. You know what I mean? I went on one of those bus trips over the weekend, and most people were partnered, couples or with their friends or whatever, and it kind of makes you think, oh, wouldn't that be nice if I had that? But at the same time, as the day goes on, it's like you hear people talking. And it's like, oh, they were kind of acting like they were single. They're not, right? And, like there was one person who's like, even on the bus ride home, it's like they were still, it's like, Jesus, that person never shuts up. I thought, well, maybe that's why their girlfriend didn't want to come along, because she got some peace and quiet, at home that day. Some people be like, oh, I need somebody to talk to. Well, there's people that can talk and talk and talk. They don't necessarily say much, or they're just blowing smoke. You know what I mean? They were even sitting behind me for one part of the event we were at, and I thought, oh God, is he gonna talk the whole time? I'm trying to watch this event here. You know what I mean? But butterfly. You could be a bit of a social butterfly. You could be a butterfly starting to spread their wings with this self-love. You can see a lot of these cards have like angel wings on them, but that might be significant for you. Okay, so whatever journey that you're on, it's a journey where you're celebrating yourself. You're showing your colors, right? You're kind of showing your true colors a little bit. Okay, whereas before maybe you weren't able to because somebody else was dominating the conversation. Crocodile. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Be wary of crocodile tears, right? Especially if somebody's like, oh yeah, this is a really great deal. Yeah, you do the da da da. Well, what do they have to stand to gain out of it? Your money, your time, your efforts. I mean, did you guys hear about that one accident? It was an accident, but they were like canoeing in like alligator and crocodile infested waters. Well, that canoe got tipped over by one of these big old beasts that weighs what, 800, 1,200 pounds? And then guess what? It ate one of the people that was in the canoe. They're not coming back. And they were out there like celebrating their anniversary or something. Like, really? That's how you want to celebrate your anniversary? You ain't getting me out on that shit. I'll tell you that much right now. Also, very infamous ending of the movie Romancing the Stone. When it's like they have alligators or crocodiles, and the guy is always like, "Look at those snappers." But they have them there, because they're the bad guys. They're there as like a deterrent. So hey, better watch yourself, or we're gonna feed you to these lizards down here that are mighty hungry. The fox. Sly as a fox, clever as a fox, right? Not getting where you're at because you're some dum-dum. Not getting where you're at because you've been listening and drying the tears of the crocodiles. No, you're like looking at that swamp saying, yeah, the swamp can have them. I'm off to something else. I mean, the emperor could have crocodile boots on. Do you know what I'm saying? And they'll be like, now that is progress. Yeah, that is. look at this, the Lion. And we got Leo here with the Strength card. So how about that for enthusiasm, huh? So now that it's summertime, right, what's there to get excited about? Do you have a summer reading list? Do you have a summer project list? Okay. Start writing stuff down. Start writing stuff down to get excited about. Y'all know what's on your phone. Y'all know what's on TV. You know what I mean? Maybe you need to get excited about where you want to travel to next. You know, not to crocodile-infested waters. Maybe you're more of a, you know, a Serengeti type. Which, you know, do not get out of the vehicle. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. You know, there's people that go on those safaris all the time. And come back to live to tell the tale. The black egg. This always reminds me of the Fabergé eggs. Okay. So this could be one of those things where you wanted to simplify, somebody else didn't, right? And now they're facing the tower. Like they thought, oh, well, it's just an egg. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, well, they didn't appreciate that. So now you're going to find out how it feels to have to appreciate it. You know, do you know what I mean? Because we all get taught these lessons. This is where the karmics don't really understand, is that they think they're the first ones upon everything. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's not exactly the case. It's just that we all come to those appreciation moments at different times in our lives. And it's at that time in your life where you're being asked to recognize it or not. Okay? And those that don't are going to have to learn a little bit harder lesson than some of us that do. Doesn't mean that you don't actually experience the upset, right? But like they say, it's how you react to it. Okay? Kind of like the coffee bean analogy, right? When you put the water on the beans, it transforms into something. Okay? But, you know, if somebody was just looking at those beans, they didn't know what they were for. They're like, well, what am I supposed to do with these? You know? But somebody at one time came along and was like, we're going to try and make some coffee out of this. And then in the outcome, we have the bee. Excuse me. So, kind of funny, one of my dogs just killed a bumblebee outside the other day. So, you could be thinking about where you're going next, literally, because a bee will go around pollinating, right? Okay. And pollinating and spreading that seed, spreading that nectar. Okay? So becoming part of the cycle of life. Okay? You know, do your little Simba analogy. Hello! You know, Simba analogy here. Okay? So that in itself may be a renewal for somebody. Okay? And on the bottom of the deck, the cosmic egg here wrapped up by this snake. So, again, if you're feeling the urge to move in a way, please do that and don't be trapped by what somebody else thinks. Okay? Because the universe has your back. All right? Is what I want to say about that. Okay. Sorry guys. I already did some yard work this morning, so I'm just a touch tired. I'm going to do just one more set of tarot cards on this. And then I will close out the reading. So Again, you ought to be able to see that blue moon. It wasn't actually, it was very yellowish, I thought, last night, actually. Which blue and yellow are complementary colors, so maybe that's, you know, something. Maybe that's something, right? I'm very jealous of my dogs right now. They're both taking naps. Siesta time. Okay. Who we got here? Queen of Swords cutting through that crap. Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius. So somebody could be calling you a fool and you're like, you know what? You can say what you want, but the Sword of Justice is still going to fall. Right? This card always, I think it is actually supposed to, I mean, does that not look like her? Pam Grier. I mean, come on. So again, Libra, air energy, cutting through the crap. 6 of Pentacles. Yeah, looking for a fair deal, not a deal where somebody's trying to be slick, right? Oh yeah, you can trust so and so. You can, well, can I? Or are they trying, you know what I mean? So it might be one of those things where you're looking at them, but it's like you're counting at the same time as they're counting. Let's make sure we're square. Let's make sure we're square, right? You know, like I would love to believe you, right? But until we establish that trust, you know, I was thinking about something earlier this morning. Some online acquaintance, you know, was kind of bragging about, oh well, go figure, it's somebody from this community who helped my relative and la la la. It's like, yeah, well, maybe that's just luck of the draw. Because there's a few others in that community that they're not there to help you. So yeah, better be counting them. Better be counting them coins. Ace of Cups. Who do you love? The Ace of Cups, right? Again, big time Leo energy, big heart chakra feeling here. Okay, Scorpio, Cancer, Pisces. So you could have that somewhere else in your chart, also with the moon. That might be something you're experiencing more of right now, right? The emotions surrounding some of that stuff. Okay. You could be involved with a Leo as well. I mean, I don't know. You know, you tell me. 8 of Swords here. So somebody could have definitely gotten themselves stuck in this tower. You know what I mean? And now they're running around, crashing out, and like, oh, this is happening. Oh, this is happening. And it's like, well, that's what happens when you do that. That's what some of you might be saying right now. That's what happens when you do that. You know? And these days, some of that is like money related, finances. This was coming through earlier as well, as I was meditating. So, you know, for some people, there will never be enough money because they spend it as soon as they get it, right? They don't know how to make do with what they have. Again, going back to not appreciating what they had, and that's why they're in the tower. Well, if the family would have helped, if the friends would have helped, if the la 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 la, you know what I mean? Then it's always somebody else's fault. Like they never want to take accountability for nothing. Because trust me, there's plenty of people out there that make it because they appreciate the little things. And then those build upon into the big things, right? And then they're able to have that tower, but it's a simpler tower, right? You know, they're not tied up in debt with this person and that person, and you know what I mean? And also prayer is free, right? So if somebody comes to you saying, "Oh, I need this," I know, you say, "Well, I will pray for you." It's probably how they came up with that "pray for your enemies" thing, you know what I mean? There's always going to be somebody saying, "Oh, I don't have enough of this. Oh, I don't have enough of that." It's because they're not independent. Because they're not making it for themselves. You know, some people choose to live within their means. Mm-hmm. Right? And other people, it's like, I don't know who they thought they were. You know? The world card, yeah. Some people could like pass. They try and talk that big game, like they know this and they know that, you know. And it's like, you might want to be wary. You know what I mean? If you're buzzing around that person, you might start to realize they might be asking questions so that they can see when the next come up is for them. You know what I mean? They're not actually interested in your progression. They're interested in what you can do for Tom, Dick, and Harry. You know what I mean? So, you know, especially those of you that are trying to get partnered up and stuff like that, and you're thinking like, oh, the other half has it so much better, right? Uh, do those people care about your goals? Do they care about your dreams? Do they care about the things you want to accomplish in life? Or are you an accessory to them? You know what I mean? Just as like you're like putting on a necklace. You know what I mean? You know, these are some of the questions you might want to ask yourself. All right. So, again, this is giving still a lot of that cutting the crap full moon energy. Look at this Hermit card, but it wants to be in reverse on the bottom of the deck. So that's Virgo. So this might be the thing where, you know, like typically maybe you are alone. Typically maybe you do like to keep to yourself, but you know, you're not anti life, right? You still like to get out and do things, still like to travel, still like to, you know, maybe visit with others, but, you know, it's how I talk about Chicago. It's like, it's a nice place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there. Okay? You know, stuff like that. So, again, collective, if you're going out there and seeing how the other half is living, especially in the summer season, there's a lot of, you know, community events and things like that. You can go out and enjoy yourself. You don't have to, you know, you can, you know, call up some people to accompany you along, but you don't have to, right? And you might find that, yeah, you don't have to take care of those folks. They ought to be taking care of themselves, right? And if they're definitely not taking care of you, then what do you care? You know, especially if you're not getting paid, if you're not getting paid for it. And you're like, well, you know, it's like the folks that they just want to work and work and work, right? And it's like they don't have any hobbies outside of work. It's like, sorry, I do. I have other things to care about. besides work. You know, um, so some people could be like, "Oh, you keep to yourself. Oh, aren't you bored?" Well, I'm busy doing stuff. You know, Leonardo da Vinci didn't make all those paintings, drawings, and journals because he was hobnobbing with so and so and so and so. You know what I mean? Being Mr. Popular at whatever party. Like, no. He was busy working. And for some of you, you know, that work is going to pay off, right? Oh my gosh, look what's on here. There's that little owl again. Okay, so trust the wisdom of the situation. Okay. For somebody, you know, you might be literally at a crossroads. And again, if it's causing you more chaos, right, than livelihood, then yeah, maybe it's time to cut that out. Maybe it's time to, you know, to donate that, right? To simplify and say, yeah, I don't know if I really need to be hanging on to that anymore, because whatever. Okay. All right. And I wouldn't count that necessarily, you know, some people might think of that as a failure. Some people call that, you know, cutting your losses. Taking a lesson and, you know, and learning from it. Where some people want to double down, double down, double down. It's like you can only double down so many times when you're out of money, then you start borrowing money, right? Right, then it's that Eight of Swords thing all over again. And it's like, well, how do we get here? Well, I think we know how we got here, right? And don't tell me I went to something good, because otherwise, they wouldn't be in that situation. You know, are we grown, or are we 13-year-olds chit-chatting, believing stories? Oh, but this and this, well, okay. The nectar's all dried up over here, honey. Go to a different flower and try and sell that BS. All right. That is all I really have for you guys today. So, again, this day after the blue moon, definitely get out there and check it out again tonight if it's going to be clear where you're at. Okay, it was quite nice looking, and also Venus and Jupiter is visible. Okay, so as you may be aware, the constellations shift as the year progresses. Okay, and with it being the 1st of June, you know, things have shifted. You can shift too. You can shift without getting off your course. Does that make sense? Okay, because sometimes there's too many people trying to take over the rudder, you know, and it's like, wait a second, this isn't even your boat. Get out of my boat. Stop trying, you know, and they'll be like, oh, well, I'm the best rudder man in the business. Are you? Because last time I checked, you're up to your eyeballs in this and that, and it don't look good from over here. So you release that rudder back to its rightful owner. right? And that's part of the Eight of Swords too, is, getting in that powerless mindset when it's like you actually do have the power in the Eight of Swords. Sometimes this is a manipulation. Okay. And this could be false reports, like official false reports, like stuff that people can actually go to jail for. I'm not talking about just like neighborhood gossip. I'm talking about real deal stuff where if you found out who was doing that stuff, they could actually go to jail if you decide to prosecute. Right. You ever let one of them liars just talk and it's just like the story just grows and grows? Right? It's like they'll be putting the swords here. Oh, and then I had to do this, then I had to do this, and you're just like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then you're like, wow. They just can't quit digging that hole. And then you gotta say to yourself, I'm glad I keep it simple. Usually the simplest answer, right? What's the number one motivation, right? Of all these people on Dateline, right? Because they stand to get money out of the situation. Well, why would they want to do that? Money, honey. Money, honey. Wake up. Wake up. We're on planet Earth. We're on planet Earth. Simplest explanation. Why are they doing it? Kind of like that person I was talking about the other day on that event. It was just going on. And they were kind of started asking me a couple questions. He said something like, "Oh, we could put you to work." I said, "Oh, I got my own things going on, but thanks." I don't need to show up as somebody's shiny new penny or nickel. You know what I mean? Where you're like, "Oh, look what I found." No, you didn't find me. I paid my $175 like everybody else to be here. So you didn't find me. Hopefully your girlfriend finds your ass or finds another you, because anyway. Not that I would even know who that is, because they weren't there to defend themselves or to claim that. You know what I mean? Right? Sometimes these people be fighting over these people, and you're like, yeah, okay, you can have them. You can have them. Go ahead. Like, really? I think that's what a lot of people find out when they are in that emotional state of the Eight of Swords. Because the Eight of Swords is very much of my life is over. Ah. Well, if you get out of these ropes and, step through these swords, you'll find, right? Some of that stuff was never yours to begin with. No. No. Some of that had nothing to do with you. I mean, usually the type of people a narcissist targets are people that are successful. So, do you want to be somebody else's nickel, or are you are you the one making sure that contract's right? And when they give you that nickel, you're like, yeah, I want to make, okay, where's the next one? Because you owe me 6 here, it says, so. You know, like we can wait to do this deal or it's over. Right? It's kind of like one of my rentals. They booked it and then they're giving me the runaround about who's the licensed driver and all this. I thought, this goes on too much longer. You know, we're gonna cut the crap, aren't we? Because some people like to protect their investments. Some people still have their investments because they do what? They valued it. They valued what other people could not see of value. All right. That being said, please do like the video, especially if you were in the chat today. Remember, you do not have to be a subscriber in order to like the video, but it sure helps the channel. Okay. So until next time, everybody, please do manifest wisely. Bye-bye.